series where I ruin vintage clothing because I hyperfixate on stupid tiny issues I have with it, but you kind of trust me anyway because I look like someone who went to art school. Technically it was film school. Today I'm finally getting to part 2 of how I ruined this beautiful vintage jacket. Just to catch you up, I put it in the wash and the dye ran, so I used a color remover to lift the rest of the dye out. But I didn't love how that turned out either, so I decided to keep ruining it and buy a bunch of fabric markers. Now that you're all caught up in part 1, it's time to use those markers in part 2. It was really bothering me that one of the flowers had lost all its color, so I went in with yellow on the petals. But then my yellow marker ran out of ink, so I had to order a second pack of markers. While I waited for that to arrive, I went in with purple in the middle. Then the new markers came and I was drowning in markers, but I could finish the petals. But once I finished that flower, the other flower felt too pale in comparison. So I went over it with pink on the petals and blue in the middle to match what it already looked like, just darken it up a little. And that flower went onto the sleeve, so I had to touch that up too. In retrospect, this is where I should have stopped, but now it was bothering me that the flowers were so bright when the rest of the jacket was so muted. So I decided to color in the polka dots on the paler half of the jacket. And I immediately regretted it. Green was the wrong choice and they were way too dark now. So I did an OxiClean soak to try to salvage the situation and lighten the polka dots. But of course that backfired and left these giant bleach spots all over the base color. And it didn't lift the green like at all. So then I was like, okay, I've actually ruined it now. This is over. Until I came up with this technique of drawing with the fabric markers on a Q-tip, dabbing it onto a paper towel, and then by hand coloring in the bleach stains. And I didn't film that, but I did film myself doing basically the same thing with bleach on each individual polka dot to lighten it. And when that bleach ran, I went over it again with Q-tip marker until finally I was like, whatever, this is good enough. But we are not done yet, because when I originally watched the jacket and the dye ran, I also lost one of the buttons. And the original buttons were too heavy for the lightweight fabric anyway, even though they were so cute. So I went to Joann's to pick some new buttons out, and the best I could find were these white round ones, but they looked terrible once I sewed them on because they looked too similar to the polka dots. So then I went on Etsy to pick out some better buttons, and I found some that I kind of liked, but I had to wait for them to ship. Then I had to pick which ones I liked better. I ended up going with the daisies. I gave it one last wash to get all that lingering bleach out, and now, finally, here it is, the finished jacket. Overall, I like how it turned out. It's much less in your face than the original, and you can't really see my mistakes. I hid the bleach stains pretty well. But it's cute, and there's no obvious dye stain, and I will wear it now, which was the point of doing all this. And I know what you're all asking. Was all of this worth it? Absolutely not.